Lauren Lucille Vassar, and I host an online show called The Celiac Diva where I give you the dish on all things gluten-free. And I've been gluten-free since March 18th, 2010. Woohoo! And today I'm going to be representing you, the viewer, who has gluten-free questions for our fantastic expert, Ann.
I'm Ann Roland Lee, the Director of Nutritional Services for Schar USA, and have been working in the field of gluten-free and celiac research for many years. So I'm happy to be your resource person.
Yay!
So far we've been doing this series, and last time we met we actually stocked our kitchen, had all kinds of great gluten-free items, talked about separating things and keeping it simple. But today we're faced with the challenge of, well, our kitchen's ready, but what about making a meal? So what we're going to do today is look at how to keep your kitchen safe, simple, and keep gluten-free fun. To start with, we talked about color coding last time. We're going to keep that theme going.
Okay.
We picked red as our gluten-free color. So what we can show you here is that on the stove, whenever you're cooking a gluten-free item and a gluten-containing item, you keep them separate. But now here's an important clue. In color coding, I like to tell people, keep things together so that if you're cooking on this side of the stove, keep your gluten-free utensils next to that side of the stove. It's a great visual reminder for Aunt Tilly or someone else who strolls through the kitchen and decides they have to help you stir the pot.
Right.
That way the utensil that's for the gluten-free product is all together, all the same color. It makes it hard to make a mistake.
Right.
So as we look at the stove, we can see that it's easily a gluten-free side and a gluten-containing side. Same principle happens inside the oven. Same idea. Top shelf is our red gluten-free item, and underneath is the gluten-containing. Same reason we do the top and bottom shelf in the oven that we did in the cupboard. You want the gluten-containing items down below in case there's any spillage, any drops, any crumbs, any of that. Now, if you're cooking a meal that is naturally gluten-free for the whole family, no reason to separate them. As long as they're cleaned in between and scrubbed really well, you can use the pans for both items. We emphasize the color coding difference when you're cooking two of the same, like two dishes of pasta. Now that same idea of wandering crumbs applies to our toasters. Again, we have our gluten-free red toaster marked. The one next to it, and even if we can keep it a little bit further apart if you have room, most apartments don't,
Right.
To keep them as far apart as possible. I recommend that if you have the room, especially if you have kids, I think a visual reminder of keeping things separate and keeping them clean is really the way to go. Now, so we have this part of the kitchen all set up, and these kind of meals. We know how to do our pasta, how to do our Thanksgiving dinner, even breakfast bagels and toast. What about lunch?
Let's do it.
Let's
check
do
it out.
lunch. Okay. Here we can see that we've continued that same color coding even into the lunchbox. We have a separate cutting board for gluten-free items. As you can see, as you're packing a lunch, there's a lot of products that are naturally gluten-free. They can go in both lunch boxes. Juices go in, fruits go in, raisins are good, cheese sticks are a must. Now we have our gluten-free snacks too. Again, those are out and separate. Into the box they go. So when we make a gluten-free sandwich, a couple things we need to remember. You always start with a clean knife, and as much as possible use condiments and squeeze bottles. Squeeze bottles actually allow the family to have one set of condiments that can be used both for gluten-free as well as wheat-based. So once we've made our gluten-free yummy sandwich, wrap it up. These things all go to the side. But we want to make sure that that gluten-free lunch is totally put away before we start doing wheat-based. Now again, you see you can use the same condiments because they're the squeeze bottle, but you would need a separate knife, and we have the wheat-based cutting board. Once we pack this lunch up, we can put that all away. Now, I'm an advocate of definitely making life simple, especially when we're dealing with both a gluten-free meal and a gluten-containing meal. So I even advocate, let's pack breakfast.
I love it.
Again, we're carrying through that color coding theme. Pink can be gluten-free. Why not pack yogurts, fruits, yummy gluten-free bagels? In the lunchbox it goes. Lunchbox goes into the fridge. You're ready to roll tomorrow morning. So, Lauren Lucille, key takeaways from today.
I think the key takeaway is to keep everything consistent when it talks about separating your gluten-containing from your gluten-free. On top of the stove, in the oven, your toasters, your cutting board, everything.
Color coding is a way to do it, made to make it easy and simple.
And have a good time while you're doing it.
Absolutely, it's got to be safe and fun.